You're all welcome to the Parenting Conference 2.0. We thank God for making today a reality, and we know that He's set to do a lot in our midst this morning. We'll just say a short word of prayer before we start. Almighty God, we thank you. Thank you for today. Thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for our speakers. Thank you for all you have said, even to do. Holy Spirit of God, take control. For in Jesus' mighty name, we have prayed.
Amen.
Amen. We are so elated that you are here. Thank you all for registering for the Parenting Conference, which is a collaboration between the Thriving Place Academy and Excelling Teens Forum. And we thank God that you registered and you could make it this morning. And we also believe that others will join us shortly. This parenting conference has been put together by Deaconess Naomi Osega Ebose, and hi, my name is Shade Oke, under the leadership of the Holy Spirit. We are God lovers with a divine mandate to ensure that children and teens transform into awesome adults. The first edition that we had in March was a great start to this divine journey. We thank God for the success of the program. In the first edition, we had Pastor Dakwa Oshika, a youth and teens minister who took us on building a strong value backbone in parenting the 21st century child and parenting teenagers with the mindset of the future. And Deaconess Naomi, in our welcome address at that conference, gave us the traits of the 21st century parent and parenting with post-COVID stress. And while I took understanding the psychology of children, we thank God for the media these days. We still have all the content available on our Facebook groups and the YouTube channels. We are glad to welcome you to this second edition, and we are so excited at the transformation that will take place as a result of all that we will learn today, as a result of all that our speakers will speak to us today. Today, we are privileged to have Pastor Ayotunde Fashoro, who is the regional coordinator of the Junior Church. He's been in the teens and children's ministry for so long. He has personal testimony of raising children that have come to their full potential. We also have Coach Sheye joining us. She's the founder of Moms University. We are in for a lot of blessings today. This conference is one of our mission fields to equip and empower parents in their parenting journey in our ever-changing and dynamic environment. You will agree with us that, with a lot of things that have been happening in recent time, the surge in technology, so many things, will agree with me that there is no better time than for us as parents to rise up and begin to defend our children, because the devil is on rampage. This is the time for us to brace up to defend our children, who have to brace up in knowledge and courage in order to defend this heritage that the Lord has given us. We defend them against evil, defend them from penetrations of evil mastermind, defend them from the plots of the devil, and through the schemings and the plots of the devil, through his sophisticated scheming, through their relationships and interaction. We defend them in the place of prayer, and we also defend them so they learn to defend themselves. How do we defend? If you defend your children, I defend my children, then we have fortified children. There's this acronym, I defend them. When you defend them, the D stands for you direct them, giving them the right direction. As a parent, defending your children, not defending them blindly. Now, defending them starts with giving them the right direction, being a good example. And the truth is, one of the things we are here to do today is to brace up in knowledge, because we cannot give what we don't have. And we empower them. we empower. I empower my children. If you empower your children, we all empower your children. Everybody empower their children. Then we'll have a sane society. We empower them by reposing responsibility and trust in them, starting from the home, which will make them stronger and more confident, especially in controlling their life and claiming their rights. We need to defend our children by empowering them. I fan into flame the gift of God in them. As parents, these things are done from the home, not from anywhere. There are so many gifts that the Lord has deposited in our children, and in defending our children, we fan into flame this gift of God in them. We will be their number one encourager, their number one cheerleader. As much as the Lord blesses us, we expose them to various skills, to do things that will make them to begin to express themselves positively. And in defending our children, we equip them, we prepare them for life. There are so many children out there that are not prepared for life. We have to do better. I have to do better. I have to defend my children. I equip my children, prepare them for life, equip them spiritually, equip them socially, equip them morally and physically with the right skills, with the right knowledge, and with the right values. And we nurture. As you defend our children, I nurture, you nurture. We nurture them, we care for them, we protect them. And lastly, we develop them. Develop a dependable relationship. In your defending your child, you need to develop that relationship with them. And this starts from knowing your children, understanding them, reach them. And when you get to know them, when you have reached them, love them the way they are. Be real with them so that they can be real with you. We have to be real with our children, no more hiding. And when we do all this, we are able to defend. We stand strong and we defend these children from the schemes of the devil. And we defend them so that they also grow to begin to defend themselves. So I believe, God, that today we are going to learn so much. We are breathing up in knowledge. We are moving up in our knowledge, and we begin to be more intentional in defending our children so that they grow up into adults that are able to defend themselves, then begin to defend others. And we have this circle such that we have children who are confident. You're welcome once again to the conference. And today we have our speakers in the house. We have Pastor Ayo Fashoro, who will be taking us on the first talk, Parenting to Full Potential, Stewarding Your Child to Greatness. You'll be taking us on this topic. Then after it's done, we'll have a Coach Olusheye coming, and she will be taking us on effective participatory parenting. Reinvent the child. You know, there is no child that cannot be redeemed. There is no child that cannot be restored. So this is what she will take us. Please stay with us. God is set to do great things today. So I'd like to welcome our first speaker. I'll just read a brief profile of our first speaker, Pastor Ayotunde Fashoro. He's an ordained minister of the gospel with a passion for children and teenagers. He strongly believes that the early stage of life is the best time to imbibe and pass across the right values that will build a well-balanced person. His mantra can be found in Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6, which says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. He's a chartered accountant and tax consultant by profession and offers a whole range of services, multinationals, especially in the area of taxation. He's a fellow of both the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria and the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. He has been in accounting practice for almost 30 years. At the family level, he's happily married to his wife of over 26 years, and they are blessed with what he considers 2 generations of children, aged between 10 and 25. His experience over the years as a father and a husband makes him passionate on the subject of effective parenting. At present, he serves as the regional coordinator of the Junior Church of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Region 19. Please, with a resounding clap, let's welcome Pastor Hayo Fashoro. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Deaconess Shade. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I want to really appreciate you and the convener of this conference, Deaconess Naomi Osega Ebose, for extending this invitation to me to speak at this conference on this important theme of parenting in the 21st century. I will try to project from here and we just take us through some of the things we have for us today. Let me start by sharing this comments by a respected preacher of the word, Charles Spurgeon, who said that you as much serving God in looking after your own children, training them up in God's fear, minding the house, and making your household a church for God as you would if you had been called to lead an army to battle for the Lord of hosts. And that basically sums up the importance of parenting before God. When we talk of parenting, it's as important as when God asks you to lead a battle. So it's war, basically. And if we wage it correctly, we'll see a better result coming in the lives of our children. Let's start with scripture, Genesis chapter 18, 17 to 19. God said about Abraham that I know him, verse 19, in order that he may command his children and his household after him, that they will keep the way of the Lord and do righteousness. There is an expectation from God for us to parent our children, to do something in the life of our parents so that they can achieve their potentials. So the question is, what will God say about you? We're going to focus on these two aspects, how to parent to full potential and how to steward our children to greatness. And I trust God that at the end of this session, we will have been mightily blessed in what we are going to talk about. All right, so let's start right away. What's parenting about? Let's lay a little foundation before we go into the main part of this talk. Parenting is a high calling from God. And it's God who has given this task to us. It's central to his plan. Genesis chapter 1, verse 28. God blessed them. God said to man, he said, be fruitful and multiply. So for us to now subdue and have dominion, there is an expectation from God that we need to do the work of parenting. It is when we parent properly that we can be able to subdue. And that talks about the importance of parenting. Parenting is not just about having children, a man and a woman coming together and delivering babies. It's talking about the quality of children that are given birth to so that the mandate of God can be fulfilled. And the quality of parenting you give can determine whether the quality of life in a nation, the society will be higher or not. So this is very, very important. Malachi chapter 2:15 tells us that when God brings man and woman together, what he's looking for is just godly offspring. And so this is how important it is. What is the primary purpose or goal of parenting? Parenting is not just having children with you, but to raise functional adults, children that will grow up to be adults who can survive on their own. So if you are always, your children can't do without you. I mean, look at that cartoon there. It's talking about a man who, even when the child has grown up to be an adult, is still telling the child what to do. That man has not really done the kind of parenting work we are to do. So we are to raise children who will become functional adults, who can contribute to society, who can fulfill God's mandate, children who have skills, knowledge, and they can do something that will benefit mankind. That's very important. They are going to start their own family. And then we should avoid being helicopter parents. What I call helicopter parents are parents that are always monitoring, directing, telling their children, even up to when they are become adults, or what to do. That can be the kind of parenting because then you will have to be with them until you have grandchildren. So it's very important. The goal of parenting hasn't changed much, even though we are talking about the 21st century. It only means that the approaches and the strategies will have to be adapted to fit the times that we are in. So quickly, let us look at the peculiarities of the 21st century and how that impacts parenting, because this will really tell us how should we do it in this era. The kind of children that we are giving birth to now are born in a peculiar period. There are different generations. I was born in the 60s. My generation is what they call Generation X. In our own time, there are certain things that were around us. There are certain things we didn't have access to. But the new generation we have, which we call millennials, those who were born at the time when technology had advanced, they are faced with certain peculiarities. And those peculiarities necessarily affect the way we can parent them, how we can bring their potentials to the maximum. So we know that the level of the pace of technology and the level of technology today has changed the equation for parenting a lot. When we were much younger, those in my own generation, if you recall, when you are watching TV, TV doesn't start until 5 p.m. and by 12 midnight is over. But right now it's 24 hours and you can have up to 20 channels at any point in time. So they are loaded with information. So when you tell them certain things in the past, what they used to tell us in the past, they can't hold today. I was talking to my wife and my wife said that in their own days, our own mother said that if a man should touch you like this, just touch you, you just get pregnant. And although she had that doubt, but at the initial stage, there was no other way to go and cross-check those things. But today, our children in our homes, they don't need to look at any magazine. They have access to information. And some of the information out there, they are unwholesome, they are dangerous. Some of our children and teenagers are exposed to pornography, to predators, and all kinds of things that could make parenting very difficult. And it has also come to a point where their attention span has been reduced. So if you are trying to reach them, there are too many things competing for them, social media, and so this is the era in which we are parenting now. It's different from in our own days when we were much younger. They are growing an educational system that's infused with all kinds of views. Things that we used to hold on to as sacrosanct before, they are no longer being taught in our schools. The children and teenagers we're having today, they are out challenging boundaries. They are challenging, status quo. They have a global outlook because they have information beyond the shores. They know what is happening in America, what is happening in Germany, everywhere. They are more accepting of diversity. They are surrounded by all kinds of different lifestyles, right? Even in this country, in places that have been considered conservative before. We are seeing people that are having different kind of lifestyle, LGBT, casual sex, and all that. And many of those peculiarities we know. Our media is full of sexual themes. They want to advertise vitamin C. They will show an half-naked woman. What does that have to do with vitamin C? So that's the era in which our children are. My first contact with anything that looks like pornography was a magazine that my elder brother brought into our house. It was called Playboy, But the children of today don't need a magazine. Even when they are browsing, it will just pop up, and there you go. So these are some of the peculiarities. The family structures is under attack, divorce at a high rate, teens pregnancy, abortion, violence, and all kinds of things. So these are the environments in which we are raising the children. So I haven't talked about the peculiarity of the 21st century. Let's now consider, how can we parent our children to full potentials, and how can we steward them to greatness? This is what we have come to learn from God today. The first thing first, which I would like to share with us as parents, as caregivers, as teachers, is that we need to know what is the correct mindset of a parent. If you don't have the correct mindset, you may not be able to do this work effectively. Now, so looking at the mindset of a parent that we need to have, we're going to be successful. First thing is you have to recognize that this is ministry work. Ministry work is not just about you being in church, being in the choir or doing one thing or the other. Ministry work is about taking care of children God has given to us. So if we're going to be effective, we have to believe what is written in that Psalm 127 verse 3. Children, they are the heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. So if we know that we are going to give account to God, I believe that we will approach parenting with the right attitude. And that's very important. So don't think that God is just going to judge you based on your preaching or your evangelism. He's going to look at how you have done the parenting. So you need to have that in your mind. So another part of the right mindset to go about this is that parenting is an intentional task. It's not something that just happens. You have to decide. Ecclesiastes 9:10 says, whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. It doesn't happen by accident. Some of us, we grew up in an environment where it was only God that helped us. Everything we learned, we just observed it. But if they are not getting the right information from you, they'll get it from somebody else. So you have to understand, have a mindset that, look, you need to be intentional about this. Love and time are the major inputs that you need to be effective as a parent. There's a time for everything. And the earlier we do this, give them our time and love, the better. Proverbs 22 verse 6 says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's grown, he will not depart from it. So, not that he will not depart, he will not. It's a guarantee. If you do the work early in life, you get better results. And the reason why many parents are struggling while their children are now teenagers is because some of the things they should have done early was not done. So I'm hopeful that some of us who are listening, maybe you are a young couple or you're about to go into this marriage, you will understand this. Starting early can really, really determine a lot whether you will succeed as a parent or not. I tell people that whatever you have not done before your child goes to secondary school, it might become more difficult. So, because once they go to secondary school, they go to boarding house, they only come home for holidays. By the time they go to university, they may not even spend time on holidays with you. When they go for youth service, the next thing is that they are getting married. It's too late to do anything. So do whatever you want to do very early. It's a good way to prepare your mind as a parent. You also need to know that it is God that can help you to succeed. We must never forget Psalm 127 verse 1, unless the Lord watches over a city is in vain. We can't do it without God's help. And God believes that we can do it. If we cannot succeed, God will not call us. God trusts you enough and you can succeed at parenting. This is very important. This is the platform from which you need to move. And then understand also that children and teenagers, they are blessings from God. They are not burdens. So if you invest in them, they are going to yield. I want to believe that the reason why some people don't invest in parenting is that they just don't see what they're going to get. They're not just sure of the result. But if you sow into the life of children, you are going to gain a lot from them. As you know, children are like plain slates. There's nothing on it. Whatever you put in it is what you get. So when you have this kind of mindset as a parent, you are positioning yourself to be successful in steering your children to greatness. This is very important to have this kind of mindset. So the second thing I'm going to share with us is that you have to embrace an effective and productive parenting lifestyle, parenting style. There are different styles to parenting, and we may just look at a few of them. But if you don't embrace the right style, it may affect the quality of children you are going to raise when they become adults. So you need to show them love and affection. This is very, very important. Remember I said under the mindset that time and love are very key in being successful as parents. So You need to make your children and teenagers to know that they can always come to you at any time. Some of us grew up in an authoritarian environment where when our parents are coming, once you hear the horn of your daddy like this, you just change whatever you are doing. You start pretending that you are reading and all that, but we need to let our children know that even if they made a mistake, they can come to you. So that's very important. Love and affection must be part of what we are doing as parents. But at the same time, we need to be firm. If you are not firm with your child, if you don't convey what you expect from your child, it's difficult for you to hold them accountable for what they are doing. So it's also important that with your show of love, you must be firm, you must set boundaries. Children will always test your boundaries. They want to see how far they can push you. They always look for a button on you that they can press and see what will be your reaction. Very important. You must be ready to discipline them when appropriate. There's something I call tough love. When you are showing them love, let it also have some toughness in it. In other words, you must be firm. So that kind of parenting is what I call the authoritative parent. Now, that's different from being an authoritarian. Authoritarian is someone who he dishes out orders like a commander-in-chief. You don't question it. But the children and teenagers of today, they will ask you why. An authoritative parent is one who is able to explain why he wants them to do this, why this is what should be done. He will listen to them. But at the same time, he will convey the expectation, give them structures, boundaries, and things to do. So it's important that we strike the right balance between show of affection and, being strict with our children. That's very important. And I'll show us a slide that will just give us an idea of the different kinds of parenting styles. But the one that I'm recommending for us is the one that strikes the right balance between the show of love and being strict and being disciplined. When you are using the right style, you will protect them and not control them. Children don't like to be controlled. But if they know that what you are saying is to protect them and you explain to them, they will understand. So for instance, if your child say, look, I want to go and do a sleepover somewhere. And you know that going there may not be the best deal for your child. And you say no. If you don't explain to that child, the child will feel that you are controlling him. But if you explain and say, look, the place where you are going, we don't know what their values are. We don't know the kind of thing that you'll be exposed to that may be dangerous to you. And it's important that we have all those things confirmed. Then the child begins to see that you are actually not trying to control, we are trying to protect him or her. So this is very important. Then we should also be ready to discipline, like I said. Your discipline must be to modify their behavior, not to hurt them. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 15 says that the rod of correction should be used. That rod of correction is not rod of anger. So you don't beat your children in anger. When you are correcting them, correct them in love. So this is the second thing. We must embrace an effective and productive parenting style if we're going to make a success of bringing greatness in the lives of our children. So this is the slide I'm talking about. You can be any of the four, you can embrace any of the four styles. The authoritative parent is highly demanding, he has expectations, but yet he's also supportive. He's able to show love and affection. But there is the authoritarian, which many of us went through. They just come, they tell you what they want, they don't care whether you like it or not, you must do it. And we see different versions of this in the scripture. For instance, King Saul was an authoritarian parent. At a point, he was even ready to kill his son, Jonathan, because he didn't do what he wanted. And God just saved that boy that day when he threw the javelin to kill him. He was an authoritarian parent. Then we also have permissive parents. Permissive parents are parents that allow their children to just have their way. And at every point, no discipline, nothing. An example is King David. Anything that they wanted, one of them raped his sister, he received him back. Another one killed another son. I mean, he was just a permissive parent, giving them everything they wanted. So permissive parents, we need to be careful because when you raise children like that, they become entitled. They believe they can have anything without working for it, because you as a parent, you always allow them to do anything they wanted. Then there's also the negative parents. We should not be like this. Like King Solomon, he had 300 wives, 700 concubines. He could not even control his children. There are some children he has never seen in his life. So we need to avoid these pitfalls and just be authoritative parents. So the next thing I want to share with us to help us to steer our children to greatness is that we need to pass the right kind of values to them. The right kind of values must be passed to them. Introduce them to God early in life. This I cannot overemphasize. And whatever you are telling them about God, you yourself must model it. If you want them to be saved, you want them to be able to pray, to do devotion, you yourself must do likewise. Action speaks louder than words with children. You cannot be telling them, follow God, embrace this part, and you yourself, you are drinking, you are smoking, or you are doing stuff that are different. So if you do this, you are laying a solid foundation, which will help them later in life. In passing the right values to them, apart from telling them about God early, making sure that they are on the right path of righteousness, teach them the virtues of hard work. This is very important. We need to let our children know that, look, before you enjoy something, you need to work first. I tell all my children, work first before pleasure. Business first before pleasure. These are things we need to tell them. That you can be talented, but talent cannot take you. It can take you to a particular level, but to remain there at the place of greatness, you must have character. You must have perseverance, hard work. Let your children know that hard work has its place, and then you'll be able to get them into greatness. And when they are doing the right things, make sure you reward them. Reinforce every good value when you see them working in that part. That way, they will know that, okay, daddy, mommy is pleased with this area. I've done it right. I can see some reward coming here, and they will continue to chart that part. So show them tough love. Let them have strong ethical values, no cheating, no stealing, no lying, and giving back to the society. These are very important values we need to give our children. Values are the things that empower your child to make the right decisions. You can't make decisions all the time for them. So if they have the right values, then their thinking will be right. If their thinking is right, then the decisions they will make will be right. So this is very, very important. The next thing that we need to do is to pass to them great emotional intelligence and relational skills. This is very important. It's not just your IQ, intelligence quota that is important, but what about your emotional quotients? How emotional stable are your children? How relational are they? How do they understand the importance of relationship? This is very important. You need to teach them to have respect for other people, to be tolerant, Help them to know how to handle failure. Now, failure is not always a bad thing, and we need to know that as parents, because sometimes when you fail at something, what people call failure is a learning process that tells the child or someone that this probably is not the best way to do something, and this is how to do it better. And you also let them know that failure or disappointment is not the end of life. If you start inculcating all this into them, then we'll be able to avoid situations where some of our children, when they get disappointed, the next thing that they want to commit suicide or they want to give up. So if we begin to teach them right now, we begin to explain to them, helping them to cope, then we are preparing solid children who will be able to stand and be great in life. So this is very, very important. We need to also teach them about relationships, friendship, and sexuality. This was one area that, I as a parent, I didn't really pay too much attention to it. As my children were growing up, my firstborn is 26 years and the youngest is 11. And it has gotten to a point that my first three children, they are coming to me and say, Daddy, tell us about relationship. And I'm like, wow. It's like I did not do a great job here. So I always want to let that known to us as parents. Let them know what relationships, the importance of relationships, how to make friends. Help them to understand issues that border on sexuality and sex. It's better for them to know from you than to learn from outside. What I'm discovering now is that children that have not gotten this kind of education, many of them are confused when they go to environments like the United States, and some of them are having problem with their sexual identity. So it's very important that we get them to have this knowledge. And then you should also learn to teach them on how to say no. If they don't know how to say no, then it's a problem. It means that they'll be following the crowd. Peer pressure will direct them in the way they should go. Let them know that it's proper, it's okay. If you cannot handle something, to just say no to someone. Very important. Sometimes we need to teach our children to be able to confront issues, not always run away from it. To be able to say, no, I don't want something. So these are things that will prepare them for greatness. One other thing we need to do if we're going to be great is that we need to give them the best education we can afford. This is very, very important. Give education priority. Now, education here is not just going to university, but also personal development, programs that can help them. Even outside their university period, you can send them for other boot camps and different places where they can acquire proper skills. And this does not mean that you have to break the bank, like I say here. When you give something a priority, you will give it all your resources. Okay, so there was a day I spoke to my children, especially the first three, and I said to them that, look, listen to me, all of you. Your inheritance will be given to you while I'm alive. And your inheritance is that I'm going to educate you to the highest level. Because I thought of it. There are some parents, they have millions, they have many houses, 10 houses. And once they are dead, their children start fighting over those houses. Many of those children have not paid attention to developing their lives. And at the end of the day, they start fighting, some killing themselves. So it got to a point in my life that I even had to sell some houses just to send my children to school. I prefer selling those houses, equipping them, than leaving those houses there and they're not getting the best education. Give education priority. One of my daughters said to me, she was just talking, said, wow, so if I don't do my master's and I don't proceed further, I'm going to lose my inheritance. And because of that, she said, look, Daddy, I'm going to continue pursuing until I get the best knowledge I can get. This is one thing that if you give to your child, it's more than houses, more than anything, because knowledge is the true wealth. Knowledge is portable. It's portable in that whatever you know today, if you go and live in Ukraine, when you are getting into Ukraine, they won't ask you to go and drop what you have learned. You can carry it with you. You can land in Madagascar and you can start a new life. So this is an emphasis I want us to have, because if they are going to be great, if they are going to reach their potential, their brains must be developed. And so we must be there to help them to do that. And in the whole process, we need to be involved in their career choice. We need to be there when it's time to go to school or try to do something or the other. And sometimes we need to teach them ourselves. This is very important. Very, very important. So the other thing we need to do is we need to seek to build independent and productive adults. This is the final goal. Our children, 25, 26, 27, 28, and still cannot make decisions by himself or herself, and is still not able to, do things on his own, and I have to always be calling you, then you have not fully succeeded. This is very important. So to be able to do this, we must not overindulge them. Don't just give them everything they're asking for. You are buying iPhone 12 for your child, and you are using Techno. Don't overindulge them by giving them everything they ask for. Let them know that resources are limited. And so they have to make choices. You can't just give them everything. So they need to be prudent when they are giving them money. I'll give you an example. Several years ago, I took two of my daughters. We traveled to the UK. And when we were coming back, we needed to do some shopping. In the past, I would just take them to the mall and they would be picking whatever they wanted. Then I'll bring my credit card and pay. But this time around, I decided to give each of them, I think, just £100 each. And I said, pick anything. We will pay from the amount I gave to you. And I began to see differences in the way they were picking the things they wanted. One of them will pick a particular thing and will compare with the other. And the other guy will say, look, there's another one that is cheaper. Let's buy this one. At the end of the day, they did not spend the whole £100 because it was their money. And they brought the balance back to Nigeria. And they made sure they didn't just buy anything. So I noticed that when you try your children with budgets, give them an amount, tell them it's theirs, let them spend it. That once it's finished, no more. They'll begin to learn how to be prudent in spending. So we need to inculcate this into them so that they won't get to become adults and they need to do something, they don't have enough of it. They are coming to you and daddy and say, mommy and daddy, I need money. That's because we have not taught them this. This is very important if they're going to be independent. Let them do the work themselves. Don't do the homework for your children. Don't do the work. Let them try it. If they fail, it's okay. It's a learning experience. If you don't allow them to, then they are not going to achieve that greatness because they will expect you to get admission for them. Don't get admission for them. All my children that are in university, I didn't pursue admission for any of them, but I was involved in the process. The one that is going for his PhD now, he applied to about, I think 7 universities. He had about 5 interviews and 4 of them gave him admission. We were part of the process, but he did the work himself. He researched, he chose, and we discussed it. Let them do the work themselves. Let them take ownership. Also teach them good home economics. Let them learn how to do house chores. Let them know how to live within their budgets. Let them do their laundry. Let them learn to cook so that by the time they become adults, they won't start asking mommy and daddy, how do we make amala? How do we make efo? You need to let them know how to do these things while they are with you if you want them to be great. So teach them to live within their budget. Teach them. So this point really is telling us the way we should parent them so that they can become independent in life. Another important thing that we need to do if they are going to be great, we need to teach them about setting vision, goals, and being accountable. This is very, very important. So give them a direction in life. Let them learn to dream. Let them take ownership. Don't just choose for them. Take them through the process. When they are having the right results, reward them for it. And where possible, have family retreats. We do this every year. In December, the whole family will go somewhere. We will learn about goal setting for the new year. And fantastic. By the next year, and those children come back with the results, they are always happy that they met the goals. So this is something very important. You do it with them and see the results that will come out of it. This is very important. Help them to develop a healthy self-identity. This is very important. Children that are affirmed positively at home, when they go out there, they tend to do better. Look at what is written there. Behind every child who believes in himself is a parent who believed in them first. If they are looking to you for affirmation, make sure you affirm them. Play the role as a parent. Let them be comfortable in their own skin. Tell them you don't need to compare themselves. They should maintain their own lane. When you have told your daughter how beautiful she is, she won't be looking for any boy to now say, oh, you look fine. She will just tell the guy and say, look, my parents already told me. So when we affirm them well at home, you are preparing for them to be able to do very well out there. I'm going to end this by saying, above all, we need to pray for them always. Pray without ceasing. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 17. Very important. Like I said, Psalm 127, verse 1, unless God helps us, it is not possible for us to do this work. For them to be successful, we need to pray for them. Do the parenting work appropriately. Let me leave you with this quote. from Max Lucado. The highest privilege and purpose as a parent is to lead the child in the way of Christ. Give them that solid foundation. That foundation will help them. Look at a man like Moses. Moses grew up in Pharaoh's palace, but Moses' early stage was formed by his mom. And when Moses became an adult, the Bible says that he woke up one day and he said, I will go and look at my people. How did he know those were his people? His mom must have led him in that way. The seed you sow in the life of your child today will rise up to speak tomorrow. So this is very, very important. God bless you. Thank you for listening. God bless you.
Please, can you give us practical tips? Because we know that, okay, at the beginning of the session, you mentioned about how techy, how the technology has solved up and all that. Can we have practical tips to helping our children with concentration? Because I know that a lot of parents here may have this issue, not just in the 0 to 5, now those are even approaching 10. How can we get them to concentrate more? How can we more like improve their attention span?
Okay, thank you for that question. Now, that's an important question. Now, the answer to that question will really depend on the age and the stage where your child is at.
Maybe from 8 to 12.
Oh, okay, 8 to 12. Okay, so 8 to 12. So a child that is between 8 to 12 is still a child that is basically at home. And unlike someone who is a teenager that's, really at that stage, there's really not much you can do at that point. So first and foremost, at that age, just taking away the devices from them is not a solution. Let me just say that. Because if you say that, oh, no tab for you, no TV for you, and all that, when they leave home, when they get to school, I can tell you there are some schools where children take tablets to school and they will still get exposed to those things. So I won't say don't give them those devices, but you need to be ready to regulate it. All right, so our last child is 11 years old, and about 2 years ago, he started agitating, to own a tablet. Our first 3 children, we didn't give them a phone until they finished SS3. But because technology had advanced, at the age of 8, he was already agitating for his own tab, while his own brothers didn't get it until when they were like 16. All right, so what did we do? We got a tab, all right? But we regulated his use of that tab. Before that, sir, you have to have a chat with them. Let them understand that you are giving them a privilege. It's not a right. And these are the framework in which they will do it. So he showed interest in drawing, do animation. He said he wanted to do animation. He wanted to learn about various things. So we told him, he said, okay, if you're going to do this, if you're going to spend 1 hour on a tablet, it means that you're going to spend 2 hours on something. We struck a deal because we know that if you just give it to him, he can spend 4 hours. So we told him, if you're going to spend 4 hours, it means you're going to spend 8 hours on something else. So we gave him, what will you call it? A condition. We gave him conditions. We gave him access to it, but we gave him conditions. And part of those conditions was that everything that brings pleasure to you on this device, you must spend twice the time on something educational that will build your brain. And then we also directed the kinds of things it was supposed to use them for. We explained to him the dangers of predators. And sometimes he will come back and say, somebody sent me a message, and we'll just tell him and say, look, that person is an adult. Even we are getting to a station where the platforms that are even meant to be safe for 8 to 12, adults are going there. So you need to really prepare the mind of that child when it's going there. So regulate the length of time they will spend. When the time is about 8 p.m., set a time that is light out. At this point, nothing should be done on your tablet. Collect it from them if necessary. Make sure there is a time for light out. There's a length of time they can spend. Explain to them the dangers and how they should navigate. But don't take it away from them. That's all I would say. If you do that, I think you'll be able to regulate it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. So there's another question. So thank you for the insightful session. God bless you. My question is it possible for parents to switch from one parenting type to another in a lifetime? Will it be advisable to be intentional about switching? Can you be authoritative during a phase and be permissive at another?
Okay, all right, very, very, very good question. You see, it's not as if being permissive is entirely bad. In fact, in some instances, you might need to be more permissive than others. So for instance, you have a child that is having learning disabilities, for instance, a child that maybe is autistic, or a child that is not yet verbal, a child that is not yet meeting certain milestones. What you need for that child really is to give that child more room for expression, okay? So in that instance, you may be more permissive than being another style entirely. So what I'm saying here is that while the authoritative parenting style appears to be most ideal, other styles could have benefits in certain instances. For instance, the authoritarian that we're talking about, it's not totally evil. If you are living in an environment that is very dangerous, drugs surrounding it, gangs and all kinds of things, sometimes you need to be a bit more authoritarian, all right, to protect your children at that early age. So what I'm trying to say here is that while we should move towards the authoritative, certain environment and circumstances may require us to embrace more of the permissive style and more of the authoritarian style. It has been shown, for instance, that among Chinese, they instill a more authoritarian style. But because of their culture, their cultural background, they are able to achieve near the same result as somebody who is authoritative. All right, so depending on certain circumstances that your children will be going through, you may be a bit more permissive, but just understand that you must not go overboard. You must not go overboard. As much as possible, use a good dose of both affection and strictness.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know if I have answered that question.
Yes, I think there's another question is close to this. There's a thin line between caring for our children and indulging them. Can you help us to set a clear line so that parents can caution themselves, they know when to put a break?
Okay, that's a very important question because, some of us, we went through the hard regime of our parents. And so we grew up to say, my children will not suffer what I suffered through. And unfortunately, when we do like that, we might get into the wrong territory. So number one, don't give your child everything they ask for. I don't care what it is. You must not, because a child will tell you what they want, not necessarily what they need. There's a difference between a need and just a want. A need is something that you yourself can see why they are asking for this. You as a parent, God has placed you with a lot of experience. You know many things than a child would know. I was talking to my daughter. I know my daughter is in media. She knows quite a lot more than me. I know that, and I admit. But I told her something. I said there's an adage in my language. A child can have more new clothes, but cannot have as many old clothes. So the experience you have as a parent is very important and it will come handy here. So number one, make sure that what they're asking for is what they really need. Now, that's a bit subjective, but you as a parent, you don't get so sentimental that I don't want my children to suffer. Look, suffering is not entirely bad. That's what we need to know. The fact that your child does not get something doesn't mean that you are not taking that child properly. So you need to be very objective when your child asks for something. What is the purpose for this asking? Why do they need it? You know, and if you believe that it's just a desire, something that they want to show that we are able to buy things, then you have to deny them. I'm sorry, you have to deny them. You know, the first phone I gave to my children was a Starcom phone, not because I couldn't buy something bigger for them, but I wanted them to start from a baseline. You know, but some other parents will say, look, I have the money to buy an iPhone, I buy it. But you buy an iPhone that is 150,000 or 200,000 for your child, and you know, maybe you are still using a Samsung, that child will start having a sense of entitlement that will not be healthy. So try to make them see that money is not just available. Before I came for this program, I'm the one with our youngest child. I cooked food for him, boiled the egg, and I asked him, did you finish the food? He said, no. What did you do? He said he had thrown it away. I said, why would you throw it away? Don't you know it costs money? You know? No, that's a message I'm passing to him. How much is egg? Maybe 100 naira. But look, I just told him 100 naira is important. So let us define between what is needed and what is just a want. Anytime our children are asking, so if a child asks for a tablet, why does he need that tablet? Sit down and negotiate. Is it that you want to learn animation? You want to learn programming? You want to learn coding, how to develop games? Or is it that you just want to have social media access? You know, those are the things that will help you determine whether you are indulging that child or you are caring for that child. What is the purpose for what they're asking? It's a bit subjective in that answer, but you as a parent, don't get emotional about it. It's okay to say no to a request when you believe that request is not about a need that will develop that child. That's very important.
Thank you so much, sir. So this is the last question. Thank you, Pastor. Are we supposed to be friends of our children or parents because there could be danger when we start becoming too friendly?
Okay. I don't believe that you can be too friendly with your child. I don't believe that personally. So long as you are able to draw boundaries, you are able to set expectations, you are able to let them know what needs to be done, I'll tell you, go ahead and be a friend to your child. Go and be a friend. Being a parent and being a friend, they are not two exclusive activity. But when you are a friend and you are not a parent at all, that is when you become permissive. In other words, you know, everything goes. That's not what we are talking about. But being a friend to your children is very, very important. But that friendship must not remove the bar of discipline, must not remove the bar of firmness. If you are interpreting friendship to mean that anything they want you give to them, then that is not what I'm talking about. Friendship, in my own definition, is the love, attention, and care that you need to give to them. And for me, you cannot overdo that, so long as you have a firm way of responding. And please be consistent in your application of discipline. You don't apply it in a particular way and then something happens and then you don't do it again. Just be consistent. Let them know where they cannot cross. So I would say you need to be a parent, but being a parent doesn't mean you should not be a friend. But if you are a friend without being strict, then I would say no, don't do that.
Thank you, sir. The Lord bless you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.